Well, here we are again. So they just had the fight, and they're now live streaming it. So this is going to be our live reaction to it. Once again, I'm Isaac with Hunger Smash Fitness, and
Yeah, and
John.
I'm my block's strongest man.
Alrighty. So I first off, I think it's hilarious looking at the record how they made sure to include Thor's record is 0-0-0. Yeah, it's his first fight ever, so I guess you got to start somewhere.
It's really funny. Yeah, there's a few funny things on this tail of the tape here. First of all, I think kind of the kilograms. I know that that's how you do it in strongman, but it favors him. It makes the difference look less than what it
Yeah,
is.
I know. Because I think Thor still has it's like 120 pounds on Steven, something like
I
that.
did I did the math. I think he's 344 or something like that, and Steven came in, I believe it was 217. So yeah,
Okay.
it's a whole person's difference.
Yeah, exactly. That's your average individual's difference.
Yeah,
But
the interesting thing is, I mean, the scale doesn't lie, but I think maybe the measuring tape does because I don't think these guys are 7 inches apart. What do you think?
it's hard to tell. I don't know if I mean it could be also maybe Thor has some poor posture unless he's actually getting measured, in which case he stretches up to his full height. I do know some tall people that do that where they'll stand naturally in a more hunched over position. Um, but yeah, I feel like it's probably closer to 5 inches or so difference, but
I think so too. Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
when Steven walks, you will see when Steven walks up to him at the end of the fight, like he's up to Thor's eyebrows. So there's no way that
Yeah,
that's 7 inches difference. But
unless Thor's got a massive forehead, but I don't see that
yeah.
necessarily.
Yeah, well, actually, let's try to forward this over a little bit to the closer to the beginning of the fight because they
Yeah.
have actually replayed this a few times today, so you do get the chance to kind of scroll through it a bit. Caveat: this is a free stream; like we're not showing anything that anyone was told not to show. They've broadcasted on coresports.world as well as this is actually Thor's channel. So they've showed it several times today, and here's the ring walk. I'll kind of go through that quickly.
Yeah. Good entrance there.
Yeah, Steven's looking good for. I've heard he hasn't fought in a while. He's looking in good shape.
Yeah, I think he came in. He gained some weight for this fight. It sounds like, but yeah, I think he came in decent shape. You know, he's fighting an amateur, so maybe he's not training the same way as if he was going for a title fight. But from what I've seen, it looks like he was preparing. He was getting
Yeah,
ready.
yeah. I mean, I think the one takeaway I had from this fight is the fear that I had that it would be a glorified sparring session did not come to pass. Like I think they were trying.
Yeah, I think I do think from watching the replays and stuff, the highlights or whatever, it does look like maybe Ward was kind of keeping a little bit back in the tank, but he did, he got in there and they really traded some punches and
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
I think Ward's trying to be wary of Thor's reach right here. And he's given him maybe a little bit more respect than he needs to. But I think I mentioned this to you earlier. It's funny because when I first saw this broadcast, I was watching it on my phone. And then I went to the laptop I'm using now, which is a 15-inch. And then I went to my 65-inch TV. And the larger the screens got, the more dominant Ward seemed to me. Like it seemed like they were closer together on the small phone screen. But when you really could see
yeah,
what was going on and how many body punches Ward lands, it seems to be a disparity, like we thought it would be.
right, yeah, and I mean, yeah, like we said, this is Thor's first fight. He is an amateur. He's not used to being in the ring, and you can see even with his punches there, he especially early on, he's doing more of these haymakers and stuff. He's not really doesn't have the finesse necessarily, but as the fight progresses, his punches do get better. He keeps them in closer. They're more rapid. So he does kind of pay attention to that a little bit, which I was surprised. I figured it would go the other way around. But I think after he got pummeled a couple times, he realized having the arms closer in and having a more direct route is a little bit helps your torso feel better at the end of the fight.
Yeah, I mean, you got to give him credit for coming out with patience. Most new fighters don't do that. They wing haymakers like crazy, and if you look at him here, he has you know, he's not the type of boxer that a professional boxer like Stephen Ward is, but he is trying to have some composure. So you got to give him credit for that.
Right. Yeah. It is fascinating though, because Thor's footwork is actually really good with this too. I was really impressed with how rapidly he'll shuffle forward and back and side to side. I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting, you know, most people that aren't used to boxing stand there like an oak tree, and then if they have to move, you know, it's big lumbering steps, and they're so focused on their hands they forget about their feet. And he actually has decent footwork, especially for an amateur.
Yeah, I would agree with that. For an amateur and for a guy his size, I think he does have good footwork
Yeah.
as well. And, you know, I've been, you know, a little bit critical of his punches, but his footwork is good. The one thing I would say, just strategy wise, so his foot speed, I think, is good for his size. Strategy wise, and it's funny because he was doing this while you were talking, so I couldn't make the point. But kind of, if you look at the stances, Thor's leading with his right, which makes him a southpaw, meaning his power hand is his left. And so Stephen Ward is the opposite. He's leading with his left, meaning his power hand is his right. And so I noticed a few seconds ago, and that's the end of the first round, I noticed a few seconds ago, Thor was circling to his left, which is into Stephen's power hand. So you don't do that when you're experienced.
Right. And yeah, like you said, that's something that he'll learn with time. But yeah, like look at those punches there where he cocks it back, you know, and Ward's able to see it coming from a mile away.
Yeah. The other thing, there he landed a good one, but the other thing I noticed was he was landing in the first round some rabbit punches, so they kind of clinched up. And for those who don't know, rabbit punch is a punch behind the neck, and it's illegal in boxing and discouraged because it's close to the brain stem and can cause really bad injury.
Right.
And it's funny because I mentioned this in the comments of somebody's video, and someone tried to correct me saying, no, it's not illegal. Absolutely, it's illegal for that reason of danger. And so,
anything to the back of the head or anything is not allowed.
So Thor, I know your arms are long, but we'll have to try to clean that up a little bit. No rabbit punching in the future.
Yeah, that'll be something to watch with the Eddie fight, because he might intentionally try and do it with Eddie.
It's funny because I read that guy's comment on YouTube, and they literally at the beginning of this fight, the referee said no rabbit punching. You know.
Yep. I know. But yeah, the first round, I think Ward definitely dominated the first round. I feel like the second round, Thor had he's able to hold his own a little bit better.
Right.
I definitely think Ward still overall controlled the second round here. Yeah, there you go again. Those are more love taps. They're not full on punches to the back of the head, but
right. Yeah, I would agree with that. I think so spoiler alert, this is 3 rounds for anybody that doesn't know. That was the duration of this fight. And I did hear Bas Rutten mentioning during the telecast that the Thor-Eddie Hall fight will be 6 rounds. So Isaac, I don't know if you knew that.
Yeah, I did hear that. Yeah.
Yeah, so I agree. The second round is Thor's best round, but he still didn't win it. And this is interesting. So you see Stephen Ward go down and you kind of put your hand to your mouth. Watch how he gets knocked down. It's a punch to the upper back. I've never seen that before.
Yeah, but it knocks him down. Like and I think that's a perfect example. You know, Thor has a lot of power in his punches. But like we've said before, you know, they're slow, and they're not as controlled as maybe if he was actually, you know, in an actual boxing match, which you would expect. He's not a boxer right now. He's training with it, and he's trying to learn and get experience in the field and everything, but it's still not his forte. His forte is still picking up heavy weights, and those gloves don't weigh much, I'm assuming. So
yeah, I don't know. They vary. I think 16 ounce is the typical for heavyweights, if I remember correctly.
I think so. Yeah, I did a little bit of boxing for 6 months or whatever. To play with it, and the gloves that I was given were 16 ounces. They were I can't remember if they were 2X or 3X, but yeah, they were the ones that we ended up playing with.
Interesting.
Which even with that, 16 ounces you do start to feel the weight on your hands when you're swinging like crazy for a while.
I think also because you perspire in them, and so the stuffing absorbs that.
Yeah. Yeah. So there may be 20 ounces at the end of the fight.
Yeah, yeah. Depending on, I think like the old time gloves were horsehair, so you didn't have that problem. But
Yeah.
it's probably foam these days.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting. As the fight goes on, too, you'll see what I was really surprised at was Stephen Ward's ability to bully Thor to the ropes and into the corner with that size disparity. And you'll see, I don't know if it's the third round, if I remember correctly, but you'll see he's actually hurting Thor to the body to the point where he's making him wince. Like he's not knocking him down because he's so big, but he is causing him pain. So I think you'll see that in the last round coming up.
Well, and Ward's technique is really good. I mean, and so even if he doesn't have Thor's strength, still getting hit by him is gonna hurt, and for a boxer, he's a big boxer, and this is where I saw this is where I kind of noticed, like, it's because I figured it might be staged at first, and then I saw blood coming from Thor's face, and I was like, okay, it may not be as staged as I first thought after the first round.
Right. Yep. But yeah, so even those were glancing blows. They were blocked or parried, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And Steven hit a really nice uppercut to the abdomen there. Like that's a pro move,
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And it's fascinating seeing, because for the most part, Thor does make contact a couple different times. He does have a couple, decent hits, like the one to the back of the shoulder blade, which is not a common strike that you see in boxing. And the ones that he does make contact with, you can see it throws Ward back a ways. You can tell that they hurt. But for the most part, Ward's able to just kind of to move in between the punches and kind of ride it out without taking much contact.
I think Ward also is able to minimize the contact by either moving away or to the side, so it's not the full impact.
Yeah. So Thor's still getting some contact. It's a glancing blow, but it's not going to carry the full weight of it, and it's going to fatigue Thor out more, because if you're swinging like with those massive haymakers or whatever, and you're not making contact with anything, it's really exhausting.
Yeah. Now he's back to the big roundhouses again. I think, as we both said, he had tightened up in round 2, but here he's back kind of to the roundhouses again. And
and there he got a couple, kind of decent punches in there too. Thor did. But I think at that point, Ward got in so close inside his guard, he wasn't really able to get as much power behind him as he wanted.
Right. I mean, like, if you have any doubt what's going on, Thor's bleeding already from the nose, and and Ward is not.
Yeah. Well, and I think Ward's handling himself really well, because I feel like at this point he probably could have gone in and finished off Thor fairly easily. Or not fairly easily, but like he could have gone in and finished Thor off. And I feel like he was kind of holding himself back, because partly because I think he's respectful of Thor, that it's his first fight. He doesn't want to demolish him, but also, like, Thor has landed. I was surprised. He actually has landed a couple hits that look like, they're not going to break any ribs or anything, but they look like they're going to hurt just a little bit. And I think Ward was realizing that he does have some power in his punches. So I do want to give some kudos to Thor. Like, he did much better than I was expecting.
I would agree with that. But here, that's where I thought Thor was hurt to the body. He's holding on because he knows he's hurt. And I don't blame him, right? Like, I would be hurt too against a pro boxer. I fought a pro boxer. I fought a pro boxer one time, like in a training session, and it hurt a lot. So
exactly.
Yeah. So that was a nice hook there by Ward.
Yeah. And as you mentioned too, like, you can see when Ward makes contact, Thor's wincing, and he's moving back. He doesn't want to get hit.
That was another one, another right hook there. And while we've been talking during this round, this is the fourth time Ward's bullied him back to the ropes. Like, this never happens in boxing, where even a guy 20 pounds heavier than you're able to push back to the ropes like that. It's like you know, some circling training that Thor has to do, but also very impressive for Ward.
Yeah. But even with some of those hits, you know, where you can see some of those hits too, where Thor's coming in and Ward will just kind of move and it just slides right on by. You know, and man, and
there's a good shot at the nose damage.
Yep. Man.
But yeah, I mean, to wrap it up, like, I thought Thor was really gracious. They didn't pick a winner or a loser. They treated it like a real exhibition. Nobody won, nobody lost. But you and I know the Ward won, and and Thor was very gracious at the end. Treated it like a learning opportunity. He actually didn't say anything about Eddie Hall until he was prompted to do so, which you know was
which I was happy about, because I mean, I know, you know, that's what this is all about, is building up to that Thor Eddie Hall fight. But yeah, I thought Thor handled it really well. I thought he was he was, like you said, he was really respectful. Didn't let his ego get in the way too much.
The interesting thing though is that he's talking about another 2 or 3 exhibitions before the Eddie Hall fight, and I don't know what you think about recovery time with that many fights between now and September.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of fights to pack into 1 year, and I don't know who he's going up against either. So it you know, part of it, and if it's 3 more fights like this, his recovery is probably going to be better, because if it's only, you know, 9 minutes total of getting pummeled, his recovery could be decent, but that's still a lot of fights to try and pack in. And then with the Eddie Hall fight, I'm not sure, because I don't think Eddie's going to be as gracious to Thor as Ward was. You know, and at the same time, I mean, Eddie's not necessarily an experienced boxer either, so it'll be interesting to see how they go after each other.
Yeah, I think that it'll be interesting, because I know the heights are supposed to be similar between Eddie and Stephen Ward, but Eddie's a lot bulkier guy, so I don't think he's going to respect Thor's power as much as Stephen Ward did. I think he's going to walk in with more reckless abandon.
Yeah, and Eddie has a lot of power in his punches as well. So I mean, it's you know, not as much technique as Ward does, but so that's another thing too, though, because like, even seeing, because you could tell by the 3rd round, Thor was already getting gassed, and like we said, you know, the 2nd round he was getting into his stride, his punches were getting better, and then it kind of fell apart in the 3rd round again, where he just got sloppy. And I know I mean, he doesn't have that training to stay disciplined throughout the entire fight. So he and Eddie doing 6 rounds when neither of them are really experienced boxers, it's going to be interesting, because I have a feeling their form is probably going to kind of go out the window.
It might. It might. Yeah, I got to go back and look at that Eddie exhibition from years ago. I think he did do 6 rounds then, but that's a long time ago.
Was it a full 6? Okay.
I think so. I mean, you also got to give him credit for having that swimming background and the lung capacity, and kind of that's not nothing, right? You got to take that into consideration as well.
Right. Although that was when he was quite a bit lighter, so there is that.
Although I think I saw him swim on Strongest Man in History, so he's done.
And he's made some posts about how he still does swimming like 2 or 3 days a week or something like that, just to keep his cardio up. So I know he's still active in it, but you know, because I've swam a bunch in my past, and I know when I was 200 pounds, it was way easier to move through the water. Now I'm around 300-ish pounds, and it's just harder, you know? Mass doesn't move through the water as well.
True.
So, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see how both their cardio and everything hangs out with 6 rounds.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think, is it fair to say, in summary, Thor did better than we thought he would do? We'll give him credit for that. He was
Yeah.
gracious at the end of the fight. He was thankful to Stephen Ward for the opportunity. He seems like he's trying to learn as much as he can leading up to the Eddie Hall fight. His footwork was much improved from when he began his training, whatever it was, 6 months ago. His punches, not so much. Is all that fair?
Yeah, I think that's a good recap right there. Yeah. And especially, I was really surprised, especially in the second round, when he started cleaning it up. And I was like, oh, you're actually kind of starting to look like a boxer a little bit. And then, yeah, then the third round came around and he's back to looking like a complete novice. So,
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, I think he did way better. And kudos to Ward as well for coming out. And like I said, especially in the third round, I feel like Ward really could have demolished him if he wanted to.
Yeah, he was really turning it on.
Mm-hmm. And he was gracious enough to hold back a bit and not completely obliterate Thor, which, you know, I don't know if he was going to. I don't know if he planned on it, or maybe he was a little bit, you know, he might have been nervous about Thor's punches, because the couple hits that Thor landed looked like they hurt. So
I heard Ward after the fight say, "Oh, he hit me with one good one, and I got on my bicycle after that." I don't know how much of that is him. I don't know about how much of that is him being gracious, and how much of that is true. Because even with the upper back shoulder shot, when we saw it in slow motion, that even looked like a little bit of a glancing blow, like Stephen Ward was slipping. But I digress.
Yeah. It's hard to know. And I know a lot of it is probably, like you said, it's them being gracious to the other athlete, you know?
Yep.
But yeah, either way, it was a better fight than I was expecting. So I will put that out there. But
yeah, and kudos for showing it for free, right? That's great.
Yeah, that was always awesome. Happen. Yeah, I wish more sports would do that, where we could watch it for free.
Yeah. Speaking of that, you guys should all hop on my channel and check on Mammoth Strain Challenge 5 coming up on January 23rd. That's also a free live stream. And guess who's going to be doing the official after show reaction live stream? This guy.
Awesome. I know. I'm excited.
You're invited. You are hereby cordially invited.
Thank you. Yeah, there's a lot of really great athletes that I'm excited to watch them, and it'll be fun. I think Mammoth is going to be a really good show this year.
Yeah, let's plan for a couple days from now, get together and talk about that one.
I'm down. Let's
do it. All right, thanks, dude. It was a pleasure speaking with you again. Great fight, great night, and we'll see you next time.
All right, same here.
Have a good one. Take care, brother.
Yep, bye.